We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
I may not be a millionaire. I may not have a brand new Frigidaire. My clothes ain't all fancy, and my car ain't brand new. But there is joy in my
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. A reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant. And
I'm
I
joined
see
here.
I've cut it off.
I'm joined here by author of Shaped by the Master's Hands and my co-host Lita Robinson. Welcome to another day of Joy in My House.
Well, hello. It's good to see you. Really good to see you.
Same here, same here.
How's it going?
It's going, let me tell you.
Okay, it's
You know,
going, yeah.
the family, especially my eldest daughter. She's in
Okay.
her teen years. She
All
is
right.
giving me a run for my money.
Okay. Well, I understand. My niece, well, my sister said to me, I have all this freedom. And she was like, "Oh my God, I wish I were you," because she's got little tiny kids. I said, "Well, you have to be 50 to be me, honey." I said, "You don't
That's
want to wish
right.
that, but hey, I don't envy you."
I hear you, I see other people
But
with their
hang in
struggles,
there,
and
hang in
you know,
there.
I say, man, I want to get to that point.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's the journey too.
It's the
It's also
journey.
teaching me.
And you're taking the right steps to
Oh, yes.
have a nice harvest later on, but it's rough during these times.
And I always admired you, Lolita, because you did that with your children. And one of our guests today
Oh,
is one
boy.
of the pinnacle reasons, one of the how can I say?
Without saying anybody's name.
Without saying
or-
anybody's name,
you're being
really,
anonymous.
really impacted your life.
Very, very much so. I'm very humbled the fact that he's willing to be here and to be on this show because he knows. Oh, that's all I can say. He knows. So-
If you're out there tuning in with us and you're joining us right out of service, we want to thank you for being a part
Yeah.
of the joy that we have in our house. I want you guys to engage with us out there. I want you to link up with us on Facebook /Joy in My House. We have a Twitter account, so you can find us on twitter.com /Joy in My House. You can send us a tweet directly with any questions or comments. If you're just listening to us right now, I want you to know that you can stream us live on any mobile device on ustream.tv /LA Talk Live Radio. And you can find us also on iTunes genre R&B. This is Joy in My House, ladies and gentlemen. This is a show that hopefully brings some inspiration,
yeah.
hopefully brings some hope, even through the challenges and trials and tribulations of your life. You can find a little joy in those little moments, because I know that I've had to do that.
Yeah.
I
had to
really have had to just sit down and in the midst of my despair, if I can call it that,
That's right. That's right.
I find, my children are healthy.
Right.
We are believers in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
We have a foundation, because let me tell you, it gets
I don't know how
pretty
people do
dismal.
it without the Lord. I really don't. I really,
I
really
would
do
agree
not.
with you.
I was kind of fighting the process and what he's doing. It's really quiet right now, and I think because of coming out of a lot of the issues that have plagued my life, chaos has been a real main goal. I've always been in the thick of things, but now God is showing me how to live in peace. And I'm able to spend more time with him. And I believe he's preparing us for some pretty gnarly things. So I think today's topic and helping people address some of the ways that people are acting out and trying to cope with life, I think it's going to be really, I'm glad we have this show to help people to have anchors, because we have
Yes.
people coming on showing people how to get through these rough times.
Oh yeah, I hope that you guys out there listening and viewing understand that this is not a stage. This is not to entertain you, but it's a platform
Right.
to hopefully bring you some hope in your despair, because I know it has
And
for me.
tools and some tools.
And
to deal with.
applications
Yeah,
and how to live life.
right.
Because I know it has for me. I think a lot of our
Don.
guests that come on, like last week we had Don
Donnie.
Wyatt. There I go again, Donnie. Don Wyatt, come on.
Right.
And he was just such a fun guest.
From the musician standpoint, the trials of being, he's a really accomplished musician. He's
been all over the world.
Been all over the world, a great musical director for great artists, Dave Koz. All kinds of things. It's just interesting to see how God is using people's talent, but how they too, whatever field we're in, God has to
Right.
lead and direct, and he gave some insight
And
in
I
the
think
music
that
business.
I think that's important to say, no matter what profession you're in, or
yeah,
even if you don't have a profession and you're just
trying to
out of
find
a
your
job
way.
trying to find your way,
Right.
God is the foundation.
Yes,
Christ
he
is the
is.
foundation.
Yes,
And
he
if you
is.
have that, you can find all the hope, all the inspiration in his word and in him.
Well, I did want to say a little shout out though.
Go ahead.
Okay. Now, Lenny Kravitz. Now, I've never met you, but I know Don and Zorro, and you know my brother Osama. So if some Sunday out of your busy schedule, you just feel like rolling out of bed with a cup of coffee and coming on, we'd love it.
We would. I would love to get the gang back together.
We'd love to get the gang back together because that was hilarious.
Yeah, Lenny's next on my list to contact.
Lenny.
And,
I would
mean,
love
we
to
had
meet.
Zorro.
It's funny,
Zorro
I've never
was
met
great.
him, and they were all together
All the time.
But see, because Lenny's a bass player, and so is my brother.
I see.
So that's why they never played because they do the same instruments.
I see.
But Lenny, come on.
Come on. We have a great show for you today, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Dr. Dan, I call him Dan, Dr. Daniel McCoy,
Yes.
clinical licensed therapist, psychologist, will be on today. He has a great message. First of all, he's going to talk about desire and purpose, which I think is such an amazing
That's
just
what I'm
concept.
saying today, yeah.
And he's also going to talk about brain chemistry and how it impacts recovery. I got an opportunity to watch the fight last night. We're a big Canelo family. My mom is from Sinaloa, Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Where he's
okay.
right from Sinaloa.
He's from it there. Okay.
And found out that De La Hoya, his promoter and his management, was not going to be there because he checked himself into rehab.
Oh, wow.
And what a struggle. He says his biggest fight has been his alcoholism and his cocaine addiction.
Oh, wow.
Having
what
all
a
the-
platform for today.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't
does not matter.
what the education, the fame, all the accolades. If you have these issues, I'm proud of him that he
So am I.
he spoke up and he's in rehab.
He's in rehab
Our
and he's
hearts
mentioned
and
it
prayers
before.
Go out to you,
Same.
Oscar. Our heart and prayers go out to you. So this ought to be really interesting today. I hope to take a back seat and learn today.
Same here.
I like
Same
to
here. I think a lot of our guests minister to us and teach
in
us.
different ways. Yes.
So if you're out there listening and viewing, I
wait.
want you guys to tune in with us. Stay tuned. I want you guys to also, if you have any questions or comments for Dr. Dan McCoy, please feel free to call in. The studio line is 323-247-7443, or you can tweet us directly at twitter.com/joinmyhouse. And you can also find us on any mobile device on ustream.tv. If you're just listening to us, you can stream us live and get the visuals as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Join My House. I want you to stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay.
In the early dawn of day, he quietly slips away. A peaceful and humble man, he seeks his Father and prays. He is not God, so they say. He doesn't really hear. That's not so, he's just a prayer away for those who draw near. Emmanuel from Galilee. Emmanuel set the captives free. Emmanuel died on Calvary. Emmanuel, he died for me. He had no place to lay his head, a stranger in his own land. A man of sorrow took a grief, a king who died, a despised man. Compassionate high priest, the one who understands.
Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. I'm joined here by recording artist Lolita Robinson, my
Good to be here.
co-host,
Good to be here.
and our in-studio guest, Dr. Dan McCoy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an
Yay.
honor to be here.
Thank you for coming on.
And his beautiful daughters are in house too. We want to.
His two daughters are here supporting him.
Yeah.
Isabel and Gabriella.
That's
so
right.
it's good to have them.
And they
here
are
with you.
beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And
Yeah, they get that from their mom.
Okay. Oh, Isabel looks a lot like you.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
And we want to say hi to your other family members. Your wife couldn't be here today, and your son. That's important.
Yeah, Rose and Chris couldn't
Yes.
make it today.
Okay.
but
So love to them, and
Well, again, thank you for coming on the show. I met you many, many moons ago.
yeah, a
I
long
would
time
say
ago.
a long time
Mhm.
ago. My daughter must have just been 2 years old.
Wow.
You're
Oh,
a clinical
Zaylee, huh?
psychologist. No, Alicia.
Oh,
Alicia, when
yeah.
Alicia was a baby. When
okay.
I went to go
Wow.
visit you and get some sessions with you because I needed it and I still do. So I don't ever want to ever say that I've arrived.
You can say that, but I can't.
That's right.
Well, I had an opportunity meeting you. Lolita said that you were very impactful in her life and that if I wanted a therapist and a Christian
Mhm.
therapist, that you were the one, you were the man. So
Mm-hmm.
I got an opportunity to meet you, and now looking forward, look how God has brought us full circle.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
And now
right.
you're here sharing some of the tools to healing. I know through my recovery program and through people like Lolita mentoring me and guiding me, it has helped me stay sober for over 5 years. And
Oh, okay.
thanks be to God.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank
that's a
you.
big
You know,
deal.
but it's
That
been
is
That's
a big deal.
phenomenal.
but it's been a struggle, not so much with the addiction, but with everything underneath that.
Oh, there's so much underneath the addiction.
Mhm.
The addiction is just the surface, but
It
if
really
we
is.
don't get sobriety, we can't get to the things that are underneath it all.
I'm
So-
glad you said that because I
yeah.
think a lot of people think, well, maybe I can just do it every once in a
Right.
while and I'll get there. And it's you really got to get out of that denial, that first.
Yeah, you know the way I see it though too. There's layers. If we start to get recovery, for instance, if alcohol is my struggle
Mhm.
and I start to get sobriety from the alcohol, then I may have to start to deal with codependency, right?
Right.
And or I smoke cigarettes too, and so it's almost like we work backwards. Whatever addiction we started out with, and then we added on top of it.
Oh wow.
We have to go back. So if
and address each one of them.
and then go
Oh.
backwards
Wow.
in time. Codependency was my big one,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I mean, shoot, I became a professional codependent.
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I
didn't
took
wanna
it as
say
far
thank
as
you
you
for
can
saying
go,
that.
right?
That is
But at least
You
you
know?
get paid for
I-
it. The rest
I-
of us
yeah.
do it for free, Miss
Yeah.
Reed.
So when you look up codependency in the
funny.
dictionary, you're gonna see my face because I took it. You know, I got a degree in codependency.
That is amazing.
Wow.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you
Yeah.
do. What are you about? You're a clinical psychologist, but I like what you said. So what is it exactly that you treat, or how do you help?
Well, I do individual and marital and family
Oh,
therapy.
okay. I didn't know that you did the
Yeah.
marriage and the family aspect too. Okay.
I start with adolescents on up. You need special training to work with children. It just takes a special way of playing because a lot of it's nonverbal. So I didn't get that training. So it's kind of from 13 years old on up.
Okay.
I see.
Deal with all kinds of issues from childhood trauma, depression, anxiety, ADD,
Wow.
OCD. You know, just addictions fit in there. I work primarily with Christians. And it's unbelievable how many Christians struggle with sexual addiction.
Oh, really?
I
We've had
see
people
so
on.
many people that struggle with that.
Would you say that's the main form of what's going on in the church now? or-
It's the one that's the most hidden.
Mhm.
It really is. It's
Mhm.
very
I would agree.
very hidden. But with the proliferation of pornography on the internet, it just it's
rampant.
It's rampant.
Mhm.
It's rampant.
It's something that I to this day struggle. I identify as a sex addict,
Mhm.
and it's because of that little secret or that
Mhm.
hidden thing that you almost feel like, oh, this is normal, but yet anything in excess.
Well, it's normal for men, I guess, in
What
society.
you feel, I think society, like you said, society
Yeah.
deems it as, oh, that's okay.
That's what men do.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, exactly. But it may be the norm. It's absolutely not healthy.
Mhm.
Right.
I mean, it causes us to develop a whole distorted view of what sex and sexuality and intimacy is all about.
What it really
Yeah.
is. I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. Well, very quickly, I want my audience and viewers out there to get to know who you are.
Yeah,
Okay.
not about his life, but I also want to just say that I love this man and his family, and they have impacted
Well,
my
later
family.
you're gonna make me cry.
I'm serious. I mean, you know. I mean, you even knew my ex-husband. you know, when
Yeah.
before he passed away and stuff. So I'm so happy to have you here today.
Oh,
Okay.
it's a blessing to be here with you,
All right.
Lolita.
Okay. Well then, here
I
we
have
go.
one question.
Okay.
Were you actually singing with Pat Boone when he wore white shoes?
Yes, I did.
Oh, I love it.
I wasn't with
I
him when
love
he
it.
wore that the rock outfit when he came on with the tattoos and the chains. But
I
no.
remember my pair
Yeah.
of white shoes.
Did
Yeah,
you really?
I had a pair of white.
You
white
really,
patent
you
leather
really
shoes.
did, huh?
I did,
You wanted to
yeah.
be Pat. Okay, thank you. That makes me feel good. But even though you dated me, thank you. Oh,
That
that's
is
great.
funny. That's funny. That's funny. Well, let's get into it with you, Dr. Dan. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Wow.
So I grew up in the Midwest and came out here to go to graduate school at Biola University. And my plan was to go back to Minnesota, but I never made it back.
Never made it
Did
back.
so did you always know you wanted to be a therapist? I mean,
I was
When
a
you were in high school?
therapist from the very beginning.
So you were a little codependent in the family?
I was the oldest son,
oh,
and
okay.
um,
Out of how many kids?
out of 5,
Oh,
and I ended up. I listened to my mom's problems, you know, and it's funny you're talking a little bit about not realizing all the levels. And it wasn't until I kind of did my own healing process that I looked back and I saw this alcoholism that was in my family, even though in my family of origin there was no alcohol.
oh, you mean okay? So your mom and dad in the home, but so it was generational.
Right.
Okay, but
Wow.
they still
But the
passed
disease
on.
of alcoholism got passed on,
Mhm.
and so there was the codependency. Both my parents would be, I would see them as codependents.
Can you
And-
kind of elaborate on codependency? Has become such a buzzword. How can you break that down so that people can,
That's a great question
you
because it
know,
really has.
'cause everybody says codependent is so it's kind of like what when you say codependent, how can you break that down for our audience?
There are so many things that come with codependency. Control is a big one, you know, and this whole thing, I want to take care of you, but ultimately it's self-centered. I want to take care of you so then you will love me the way that I want to be loved, right? And so it's at the core of it is self-centered.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then those of us who are codependent, we get into relationships with people who have an addiction. So we are having to take care of them. Right. And so we want to take care of them so that then hopefully they'll love us back. But their focus is on the addiction. And then so we get resentful, we get angry.
Because our focus is on them.
Right. We're addicted to them. We get controlling and then you know, it just the problems just continue. And then we may actually then look for those needs to be met in one of our children because it didn't work with our spouse.
Right.
So now I want that to happen with my child because I can actually control my child a little bit.
So
Right, you
being
can
over
manipulate
involved in
more.
their lives and
Right.
being over, you know, living through them.
Right. And if anything,
Right.
my father was a workaholic, so that's how it happened with my mom and I. You know, I didn't know this was going on.
Right.
You know, so
right.
and then in high school, all my friends came to me and talked to me about their problems, and I was a good listener. So when did I become a psychologist?
Okay, you decided when you
I've
were
been doing
early.
it all my life.
That's
right?
true. That's
Well,
true.
I did want to ask
But
you.
it was a gift that God could. So the positive side of it is, it's a gift that God gives, but when the disease comes in, it can distort it.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm doing exactly what God created me to do.
I know you are.
And so he's gifted me in this. But then it's amazing how he can take our brokenness and use that as a way of making us even stronger and better. You know, and so I'm hoping today our conversation is a message of hope because, you know, you talked about the Oscar De La Hoya, and I wonder if the rehab he's involved in has a SPECT scan machine because if I know there's brain chemistry going on in his brain that is getting in the way of him getting sober. And so
Really? I've
I
never
think
heard that
every
before.
rehab needs to
Wow.
have a machine that scans so that we can actually look at the chemistry and treat the chemistry so that we can get sobriety. We're going to look at a few
gonna
brain
talk about
scans
that
in
a
a
little
little
bit.
while. Yeah.
Well, I did want to ask
Wow,
you, was your
okay.
faith a part of your wanting to be a
growing up,
therapist?
yeah.
Oh,
Were you-
completely.
Were you raised Catholic? I mean,
Thanks for the
Christians?
question. Yeah, I was raised in a Christian home and ended up a psychology major at my college at Wheaton College in Chicago. And I wanted to go to a Christian school that integrated theology and psychology. And back in 1984, there were only 2 schools doing it. One was at Biola, Rosemead School of Psychology, and the other one was at Fuller. So they were both out here in California. So I knew I was destined to come to California. And so I ended up at Biola. I can't separate my faith from the work that I do. It's just
That would
so
be hard.
it's so much a part of who I am. And it's the underpinning of everything in terms of the way I see things. So
Do you see that that's going to be coming under fire in the near future in terms of, because what I'm understanding is they're taking away a lot of the things that we people of faith believe in and saying that we can't say that these are, how can I say that? As a believer, you can tell people about Christ and say that certain behavior is not of the Lord, and you're trying healing them from these other ways of life, but it can be against the law. I guess I'm saying it in a.
You know, I think the church is in for some persecution, at least here in the
In
West.
your field
really
too, I
do.
would imagine.
It probably will. I hope that things like that don't happen. But I mean, when prayers aren't in schools anymore, at what point are they going to start to restrict, those of us who are licensed? But
Right.
we just got to keep praying that God, we're the salt and that we can really impact our culture.
Right.
So-
Right. Sorry it took me so long to get to it. I was just trying to, whatever, but you answered it great.
We are going to talk about your licensed clinical psychology, but you're also an expert in neuropsychology.
Yeah, I back in 1994 met Dr. Daniel Amen, who's really kind of pioneered the SPECT scan technology with treatment. And we actually, me and a couple of other colleagues, Dr. Earl Henslin and Dr. David Jarvis, who I'm in practice with in Brea, got to read his book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, when it was in manuscript form, before it even was published. And we could get people to a certain level of healing, and then with some people we'd hit a ceiling. We couldn't go any further. And what he taught in that book and what his scans have shown over the years and working with him, that's been one of the keys to kind of unlocking and being able to go further. So that's where I gained a lot of my training. Who knows how many people over the years I've had scanned, just hundreds.
The way their brains operate differently, or
right? What parts of their brains are
from
working
addiction
too hard,
Uh-huh.
and what parts of their brain aren't working hard enough. To say it simply.
Mhm.
And so we'll gravitate towards certain chemicals to medicate our brains.
Mm.
And I don't know if you ever heard people say, I don't know what the big deal about marijuana is.
Mhm.
And then others, it's like, oh, that's the drug for them.
Mhm.
Well, I could tell you exactly in their brain the chemistry that's different that causes a person to gravitate towards a certain chemical. Like cocaine versus marijuana, or
Well, let's take a look at that because, neuropsychological assessment. What is a neurological assessment? What does that entail?
well, I
What he's doing.
run people through a whole battery of checklists, and then if the funding's there, I love to have people scanned,
Mhm.
and then you bring the picture back, and you have them see it, and I can start to describe, well, here's why you get locked onto negative thoughts and negative behaviors.
Mhm.
Here's why, your fuse is so short and you get angry very quickly. And I'm able to start to explain why they have certain behaviors.
Oh wow! So it's not all
Chemistry-wise.
emotionally based. I thought,
Well, then they start to say, oh,
Mhm.
maybe I'm not crazy, right? Maybe there's more to this. And then we start to treat the chemistry, and they actually start to see change.
Is that like through medications?
Medications, supplements, diet, exercise. There's just a whole bunch of different things that can be done. So,
Well, let's take a look at a couple of the
Good.
brain scans and some of the correlations.
okay, we
Okay.
have time to do that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
we
you
can get to
have
it
a
right
message
now.
for us later, don't you?
Okay. Yeah, I want to integrate some of the faith stuff in it.
Well,
too.
good.
Well, let's take a
So-
look at the first brain scan. What is the first brain scan that we're going to be taking a look at? or that we're
Okay, the
looking
first
at?
thing I want to say is if you're driving, don't pull this up on your smartphones. 'Cause we don't want any.
Thank
we don't want
you.
any 5-card pileups because you're
That's
looking
right.
at the brain scans. But if you're online, there's 2 brain scans on the screen, and one of them on the left is a person who struggles with sexual addiction and pornography, and the right is normal. Okay, and you can see it kind of looks like 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, and there's red and white lights, and the left eye and the right eye. The left eye is white. That
Has
means
some white
it's
in it.
very hot. That means it's very overactive. So white means really overactive, and red means somewhat overactive. Okay, and that's where anxiety resides. Okay, and the nose on the screen would be the limbic system, and that's where depression and mood are. Okay,
Wow.
and so what this guy did is he used
This is one of your clients or whoever, patients.
yeah, it's confidential.
Yeah.
nothing-
So what's his
yeah,
name and where's his
yeah,
family?
where's he from?
I want the normal one.
Yeah, really.
we all want the normal one.
Is
Right?
anybody
Yeah.
normal? Let's just say.
You know,
let's start
it
there.
is so hard to find normal brain chemistry.
Okay.
It is so difficult. In fact, Dr. Amen has gone through, tens of thousands just
Right.
to find the normal scans.
Because
And
we're fallen
because
nature from our
head
life.
trauma, toxic exposure, yes, genetics.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so many factors go into it. So if you look at the normal,
nose,
the
the
normal versus the abnormal, as I was saying earlier, it was
Laugh, Van. That must be a private joke, Van.
yeah this
Very quickly, I want to thank Van Eric Marshall
Yes,
this morning for all the work that he did to
Van,
getting
our
the production of this show.
producer.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
The inside joke is for those moviegoers and those who are Mel Brooks fans. He has a show. He had a movie called Young Frankenstein,
That's right.
and Igor was supposed to pick a normal brain, and he couldn't pronounce the abnormal, so you're Abby normal.
Abby,
Okay. So Dan was talking about you. I'm like, okay, well.
yeah that was a little bit of an inside joke, but
Yeah.
but he used pornography
Mhm.
and masturbation and sexual relationships to medicate his brain, and he got involved in CR and SA, Sexaholics Anonymous, and he couldn't get sobriety. He would relapse and over and over and over again.
Mhm.
Finally, we got this scan done and started to treat the anxiety center, which is the basal ganglia,
Mhm.
and he all of a sudden started to get sobriety,
Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm.
right? Because it was a chemistry thing. And so once those areas started to calm, he now had more resources to be able to make the right choices
And to deal with maybe the stresses of
and
life.
s- yeah,
Well,
right.
people know
Instead
that
of-
about depression, but not so much with sexual addiction, huh? We've heard about people who are clinically depressed.
That's right.
Exactly.
Wow.
So he would have more ability to call a sponsor, to get to a meeting, to make different choices
Mhm.
than just isolating and and going into the addiction.
Mhm.
And so I mean it's phenomenal, and that this isn't an isolated.
Would that be the same with
example.
relationships? I would say that I was more of a relationship addict, having to have people in my life. Would that be the same thing for women in terms of,
Well, love addiction's a huge thing, isn't it?
yeah.
You know, and so yeah,
Is it the same type of,
yeah, it would do some of the same things.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Wow,
Because
that's,
to feel loved really is it's a charge, isn't it? It really kind of
oh boy.
Stimulates.
Yeah.
I could be on cloud nine for 4 days
Yeah.
really
if I meet somebody I think this is it. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm laughing, but really.
yeah.
And it's crazy. And then I'll find myself coming back down to earth and I'm like, whoa. So that could be,
Yeah, there are things that wash over the brain. I call it pee on the brain
oh,
in the beginning.
okay.
It's PEA, not PEE.
Okay, I was like, okay.
Thank you for
Yeah.
elaborating on that.
It's phenylethylamine, right?
Wow.
And it kind of charges your brain up, and it's in the initial stages of relationship, So
Well, I feel that all the time with my girlfriend, and we're not in the initial stages, but man, I have a good date with her, or just we have some a good calm night, and I'm
And
just
you're
like,
happy as well.
oh yeah, and like you said, it carries me
For
through
days.
through the week, and I'm just like, I'm driving and I'm just have this smile on my face and nothing can get to me. But then let have something negative happen and it just destroys my world. And I want to find that even keel. It seems like I have these highs and these high highs and these low lows. I just want to be even keeled, have little highs and little lows. I'll be.
Well,
but
like
is that
like I
what-
was
is
saying
that what that's a
earlier,
part of
Joel,
it?
I want to see your scan.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to see my scan.
Yeah.
No, but I think I think you have me very interested in this because I would love to
I
see.
didn't, I figured through doing the 12 steps, which I do, and I've had a lot of therapy, which I have, but there still can be some things that, like sometimes I crave a lot of chocolate,
Hmm.
so does that all tie
Oh,
into
sugar,
with this?
yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's my
Yeah.
thing too.
Yeah.
So you can be treated when you have these scans. Then you work out an individual program for people, like you said, exercise and medication, or
Yeah. Medication, supplements. Some people don't want to deal with medications, but in some situations they're real important. A lot of other things we can just deal through supplements. And anxiety, when I have somebody who comes in with a hot basal ganglia like the sex addict, the first thing I say is you got to start exercising. You need to be exercising 5-6 times a week for 30 minutes or more, and getting your heart rate up, because they're throwing all this adrenaline into their bodies, and it's not getting burned off, and so then they'll pursue the addictive things,
well,
to
can't that kind of get addictive too? There's some people, like
yeah,
bodybuilders,
well, you
so you have
can,
to,
yeah, you can,
well, anything I guess can be.
we can take anything and,
Right.
and be
Obsessed.
extreme about it. Yep.
Well, I train a family right now, the whole family. I train the husband, the all my students, the wife, the 19-year-old daughter, and the 8-year-old son. And he wanted to stop smoking. He wanted a lifestyle change. And he said, I just want private lessons, and I want you to teach me whatever it is. He didn't even really care. I go, let's start off with a little boxing, and then go a little kickboxing, and then become a martial art, and maybe some MMA training, some mixed martial arts, ground fighting. And he is now, I would believe, 3 months off cigarettes. He had
Wow,
been
so that
smoking for
goes
over
like what he was
20 some
saying.
years.
Mhm.
And he started off, twice a week. He's up to about 3-4 times a week now, and he really feels freed from the addiction. He feels like now he's able to focus on his health. And he also, it translated not only into his exercise, but then his diet,
Right.
and then his supplements.
Mhm.
And now he just,
Now that
he's
just
a new man.
That's backing up exactly what you were
What you were
saying.
saying.
Yeah, and I think nicotine is the most addictive chemical on the planet, more addictive than heroin, because it's a antidepressant and a stimulant wrapped together.
wow, see, I didn't know
So
that.
it elevates mood,
How do you do that?
and
mean,
it causes people to be able to focus.
really?
Really.
Yeah.
And I
Oh, I didn't know
I-
that.
enjoy smoking. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't smoke anymore.
Causes you to focus?
To focus. That's how
Yeah.
interesting. But I enjoy smoking when I'm kind of stressed out and I would be in the car. I'd pick up a cigarette, and I did. I find myself more okay. I'm smoking, but I know what I'm doing now. It was almost like a habit that allowed me to focus. It was
Yeah.
very very odd.
Yeah.
Now that you're saying that, I can correlate with that. But I don't smoke anymore because I know how bad it is for my health. I can't go teach for 3, 4, 5 hours.
Right.
If I'm smoking.
Yeah, but I'm glad that you're tying this all together, because I never put all this
Yeah.
together, that it had this. Well, what made you go into this form of the neurology type of, I'm saying it right?
Well, I think that God was.
Because you
kinda
started out as
directing me.
an emotional therapist,
Well,
right? What's the difference? I mean,
Well, I was doing therapy, psychotherapy with people, working on all their issues. And kind of like I said, we would hit a certain point with people, and then we couldn't get any further. And so maybe I need to give a little more history. When I was in college, I was pre-med all the way through. I started out chemistry pre-med.
I was going to ask you that.
and
That
then,
sounds,
and then and then I went to biology pre-med.
Yeah, your
and-
daughter.
and, yeah.
Okay, is she okay?
And-
She got
and
it
then
on this.
Right. And then I thought that, hey, if I don't get into medical school, I need an option. So I took a psych course, and I love psychology. It was just like eating, I never get enough of it. And so I became psychology pre-med. Well, then I'm studying for MCATs. I had the grades and everything, and
What's MCATs?
That's the test to get into medical school. It's like the SAT or the ACT
Jeez.
for college. And I'm studying physics. And why am I doing this? This isn't what I really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Your heart wasn't in it.
My desires for psychology.
Mhm.
My dad was a physician. I knew how hard he worked, but I think it's just
And it's interpersonal. It's
right.
total different,
Yeah.
super
So I
handy.
had all the science, and then I just kind of walked away from it. Well, then 10 years later, I have my doctorate now, and God just kind of said, okay, you were studying all this stuff for a reason,
Oh man.
right?
I'm glad I asked that.
And so now all the medical stuff got kind of integrated in,
Full circle.
and
That's
and the science stuff.
amazing.
So it was God's finger in my hand, kind of guiding me along the way.
You know what's? I always say that I like to tie that in when people speak because recovery or life is not a straight shot. The things that God prepared you for earlier in your life, He would bring it in later on. So it's just kind of like encourages people to not to give up on the process and to see how God really does work things. I'm so glad I asked you that because I was wondering, how did you get,
Right.
Into
you
the
know?
sand.
Well, it kind of goes with my life verse. If you want to kind of segue
Yeah,
into
we're gonna do
to
that
faith,
before.
my life verse is Jeremiah 29,
Mhm.
and it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for calamity, to give you a future and a hope. Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord." That's been a mainstay for me to know.
When did He put that in your heart?
Oh,
that
when
in
I was
college?
a teenager.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I was a teenager.
Uh-huh.
To know that He had a plan for me.
Mhm.
And even when things didn't work out the way that I thought I wanted them to work out, and there's so many places and times in our lives where that happens, knowing that He had a plan
Mhm.
was so key, and it was His job to worry about the plan. What was my job was to call on Him,
Mhm.
to reach out, to pray.
Mhm.
And then He says, what will I do? I'll listen. I'll listen to you. And if I seek Him, I'm going to find Him.
Mhm.
And let Him worry about the plans. And that has helped me so much, because I look back and life is so circuitous. I mean, we don't know why we're here. And then, because when I walked away from pre-med, why did I study organic chemistry? Why did I have to go through that? I mean,
It wasn't easy, yeah.
That
Oh,
sounds kind of
I
nuts.
spent
People
hours and
look at you
hours.
like, are you crazy?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Why did it? Well, now I know why.
So if you're listening out there and you're viewing this,
Man, this is
God has a plan for you out there as well.
Yeah, we want
You got to seek Him.
Mhm.
You got to seek Him, and He will bring it full
And that's a
circle.
great
You might
life
not
verse.
understand. You might not understand why you're going through the trials and tribulations right now, but He does.
Mhm.
I say that in CR as well. I don't know why I'm here today, and then God reveals something to me, and I'm like, that was why.
Mhm.
Me and my daughter do the CR program and the landing. She does a team
Oh, that's
CR program.
beautiful.
And I remember one time kind of feeling disconnected from my share and from being in the meeting. And then my daughter comes out and she had a great meeting. And I was just like, well, that's why I came.
Mhm. Not all about us. Not
It-
at all.
it- thank you.
Not about us at
Yeah.
all. God
Well-
wanted you to do that, but in His time and His way, and
Well, in the step meetings where they say, suit up and show up,
mhm.
right?
know what?
And the feelings will follow.
What's funny is that Lolita has instilled that in me. That is my mantra.
I never
Is
wanted
it-
to.
Suit up and show up.
Yeah.
Let
She's
God
always
do
said,
His
just,
thing.
yeah. She's just said, suit up and show up. Just show up.
Yep.
I did not want to go. I did not want to be there. And even to this day, sometimes I share and like, I don't want to be here today. I want to be at home watching the Dodger game and just isolating.
Mhm.
But I suit up and show up, and then God reveals Himself every time, especially on the days that I don't want to be there.
Well, I tell you,
Right.
and I can really identify with that with this verse here. It really brings it on home to see how He's worked in your life.
Hmm.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
How did-
Are we going to look at another still?
we going to
yeah, we
commercial,
can,
or-
or where are we at?
I'm going to look at one more still. We'll go
Okay.
talk about that, and then when we come back. But let's take a look at one more still. I think it
Okay.
was
Yeah, because
very
you have a
interesting.
message for us too, huh?
Well, I'm kind of weaving it in.
That's great. You.
Okay, so now you have a normal brain on the left, and we're looking at now the surface view.
Hmm.
It's a different view. The view before was active view. Then
So the left one is normal.
The left one's normal. The right one is abnormal. So
Okay.
if you look at the top, you see these 2 holes.
Look like pretzels.
Those aren't holes. That means there's no blood flow. That's where ADD resides.
Oh.
Now, this is a husband's brain. And if you want to go to the next one, the ADD stuff has a hard time focusing. And this is now his active view is on the left.
His is really a lot of white stuff going on there.
So he's got anxiety and he's got depression. So this is the husband. And so the next scan is, I believe, husband and wife together.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so that's his surface view and her active view. And you can kind of see the line.
Hers is more to the right side. What's going on over there?
Well, she's got the line up at the top is called the cingulate gyrus. We call that the gear shifter of the brain. That's the part that gets locked onto negative thoughts and negative behaviors. And so if that husband with ADD has, because ADD is like a filter. Those who are ADD don't have a filter. So things that come in their mind come out their mouth.
Oh boy, I know somebody like that.
Right?
I'm thinking, man, he just got no filter.
So for example, the husband might have the thought, she looks a little heavy in that outfit. But it doesn't filter it, and he says it. Okay, so now her cingulate, her gear shifter locks onto that.
Right.
And now,
that's all she can see.
That's all she thinks about. And now
that's compulsive obsession?
That's where OCD resides, exactly, in extreme forms. And then she also has the anxiety, and she would hold on to things. It's the kind of thing they would remember from what happened 20 years ago and bring it up, and so trying in marital therapy to address those things when they aren't ever quite able to forgive. So now starting to treat the chemistry, I end up having a different couple in the room.
Really?
Wow.
Yes.
I don't mean that like you telling the tale, but you could really see the difference after you treated the chemistry that was going on.
Oh, it's unbelievable how that works. Is
this generic, passed down, DNA?
Genetic, a lot of it's genetic.
A lot of it is, okay.
Dr. Amen calls it the brain chemistry, the hardware of the brain, right? And if the hardware isn't working, therapy and recovery is software work. But if my computer isn't working
Say that
right,
again. Say that again.
Okay, the brain chemistry is the hard drive.
Okay.
Okay, and recovery and therapy and all the tools that we gain is the software. If my hardware isn't working right, the software is not going to work right.
Wow.
So I got to get the hardware working right. Then the software is gonna work so much better.
So efficient.
And after the commercial, I want to hear how you tie that in with the spiritual.
Okay.
That's a whole lot of work.
Ladies and gentlemen,
a whole lot of work to explain it.
This is Joy in My House. We're gonna come right back.
Wow.
And Dr. Dan McCoy is gonna have a great message for us, and he's gonna tie it in with the application of the Bible. So please stay tuned. This is Joy in My House, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. Dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus.
Hi, this is Barbara Perkins, inviting you to join us every Sunday afternoon at 2:40 for Sisters at the Well Radio, a conversation with women about women. Join us as we share stories about current events, jazz events, business opportunities, health and wellness, entertainment, and so much more. So don't forget to tune in Sundays at 2:40, exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, I'm Monroe Williams, and I would like to invite you to join GospelRhythms.com every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our show, GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio. Join us as we celebrate Christians around the world in all genres of entertainment, as well as highlight interest stories on men and women who are making a difference and impacting their community. So don't forget to tune in to GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes under R&B or watch us live on Ustream TV. We are reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio on LATalkLive.com. We're more than just talk. We're heaven's party here on earth.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Join My House, inspirational reality broadcasting show with a touch of recovery, a reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant in whatever form or fashion that they show up on this show. I'm blown away. I thought I was well.
I'm joined by Lolita Robinson.
30 years of recovery, and I just found out, okay, now let's go to step 2. Oh, man.
If you don't know, Lolita is an author of a book called Shaped by the Master's Hands, which you can find on lrcministries.com. And she has released her second CD called Changes that you can also purchase there. Lolita is a speaker as well and a performer.
And in the process.
And in the process.
And in the process.
And we're going to have an amazing 2-hour special next week where she'll be performing live. The premise of the show is Joy in My House, and it was created by one of her songs called Joy in My House. So we're going to have an amazing show for you next week. But right now we are in studio with our in-studio guest, Dr. Dan McCoy, talking about the correlation between brain scans and recovery, and he has a great message on desire. So Dan, why don't we continue on?
Yeah,
Dr. Dan.
Lolita, I like what you just said. I'm in process, because we are all in process, and that's one of the things I've kind of really looked at it that way for my life, because I practice what I preach. I'm not one of those people that doesn't do what I tell other people to do. You know,
that's important to know.
Absolutely. You know, I've been scanned. Everyone in my family's been scanned. You know, for those who are willing, they've kind of followed some of the treatment, guidelines, and so it's been crucial. Plus, then the whole recovery aspect of it.
I did want to touch a little bit on that, because I know that Lolita had an opportunity to speak at Bethany Church a while back, and you were one of the Celebrate Recovery leaders there.
You started it there, right?
Yeah, I was. I had that opportunity. That was amazing. I and one of my good friends were able to start CR in our church, and then as I kind of looked at myself, I mentioned earlier I'm a professional codependent. Well, I started going to Al-Anon myself, because I really needed to deal with those issues, and that's been a place where I've gotten so much healing and for myself, and been able to kind of pull out of the disease that alcoholism
thanks
brings.
for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because there's alcoholism in my family, and but the Al-Anon person kind of just doesn't. They're just kind of going along and just trying to put out all the fires, and and I realized I was crazy,
Thank you for saying.
and I needed help. So,
and then you can relate to your people, but I want to get to his message. But you.
Well, I was doing a study on desire, right? And I started looking at verses on desire in the New Testament, and I came across this principle. It was pretty amazing to me. The word for desire is epithumeo. So those Greek scholars, forgive me for butchering that, but it's epithumeo. And it means to have a desire for, long for, to lust after, to covet.
Wow.
So let me read some verses that word comes into, because it really fits with this whole thing of addiction as well. The first passage I want to read says, "And when the hour had come, he reclined at the table, and the apostles with him. And he said to them, I have earnestly desired, epithumeo, to eat this Passover with you before I suffer.
Wow, I've never heard that.
Okay, so Christ longed for, he desired, he lusted after wanting to spend that kind of time with them, that intimacy.
That's a lot of love that he had.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so then when he says, you have heard it said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks on a woman with lust, epithumeo, for her has committed adultery with her already in his heart. Wow. Isn't that amazing? Because the same desire, okay, God has given us desire. Unfortunately, our desires get disoriented, right? And so addiction is the ways in which our desires get disordered. He created us with desire. He did. He laid it in our hearts. And so we're longing, for intimacy and connection and fulfillment. And the enemy comes along, and what does he do? He destroys it. He says, no, you know what? Marijuana is going to help you better. Cocaine's going to help you better. Pornography is going to help you better. Taking care of that person, who's addicted is going to help you more. Being love addicted, all of those things, he says these things are going to work better, right? And
so when you talk about the desire from adultery, that means the intensity of it. Is that why he used that word in terms of even if you lust after a woman? I'm kind of fixated on.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is he's looking at his neighbor's wife. He's
coveting her.
Yes, coveting her, wanting her, exactly. And then pursuing her. He's basically saying, it's not just adultery that's the issue. It's what's actually in the heart.
Wow.
So, I mean, there are a couple other verses here. It is a trustworthy statement if any man aspires to the office of overseer. It is a fine work he desires to do. Epithumeo. So being a spiritual leader, being a deacon, being an elder is something that's good. It's a desire that God has, put on your heart to be a CR leader, to be, involved in some ministry or go on a missions trip. Those are healthy desires that God has given us, and then the enemy comes along and he wants to destroy it.
Wow.
So it's really fascinating that the same word means the same thing. It's just going in a different direction. And so we can pursue addictions, and what does that do then? That takes us off the purpose. If I pursued addictions, I'd be taken out of what it is that God created me to do. He created me for a purpose. He created all of us for a purpose. But if I'm going along the path of addiction, I'm not going to be effective.
No, you're not going to take you out of the game. So what you're saying is desire is a good thing.
Yes.
It is a beautiful thing. It's a God-given thing, but the enemy has come and taken it and has distorted it and, like you said, led us into these addictions. But the addictions...
And so many times that happens early in our life. 12, 13 years old. I mean, when do the boys, and I want to say now the girls, because it used to be the boys that were doing the pornography, but now it's the girls.
Why do you think that's so now with women?
Because of the internet. Yeah, they have access to it.
Okay.
And then and alcohol. They're trying alcohol at earlier ages. They're smoking marijuana at earlier ages, and I don't want to get political, but I could show you scans on the impact of marijuana on the brain, and here. Our state wants to legalize it, and it makes me crazy.
Okay. Yeah, because from the standpoint of, do you think also it's because of the coping mechanism that so many kids just don't, because of the family, how do you tie that in with families that are disconnected
there's so
and not?
Much brokenness, and so then they want to medicate the pain that they have.
And then having the genetic disorder. So this is kind of a doomed
Things are stacked
generation.
Up. Things are stacked up against all of
I
it.
kind of see that with, I always correlate it to my teaching. Some people want to learn all this technique and want to defend themselves, but they don't want to do any other work. I go, well, you got to take a lifetime, and you're always in process. I'm still to this day, 19 years of teaching, 25 years of training, I'm still learning. And it's a process. You got to go through the pain, through the growing pains. And I think a lot of people don't want to. They want to pop a pill and get skinny. They want to pop a pill and be able to hit, 50 home runs. And sometimes you got to go through the process of being.
But I agree with that. But this generation here seems to have it hard. Maybe every generation said that.
Yeah,
but this
every
generation X, these kids, there's no right or wrong. I mean, do you think that it's just even harder for the young people coming up today, which makes addictions
the
more?
enemy just finds different ways of twisting
That's
things.
a good way.
And I think every generation has had its struggles.
Huh?
That's a good way.
I think we all have to deal with sin, and
yeah,
and so I mean, are things proliferating? I think they are. But at the same time, the struggles are the same. And it comes down to, bottom line is Christ, and are we going to let him into our lives and transform us, and then give us the foundation to be able to move, in healthier directions.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
So well, we are running a little bit out of time.
Yeah, but he's just tying it all in terms of that our desires are not bad. Thank you for saying that, because I keep thinking maybe I should get rid of these desires, and where do these desires come from? But they're not bad.
No, they're not. It's just how do we put them in the right direction? Yeah. So.
Well, we always like to ask this of all our guests, Dr. Dan McCoy. What does joy in my house mean to you today?
Oh, it's been a joy just being here and dialoguing with you guys, and then just the history kind of feels full circle, to come around, and so I it's been a blessing here to sit with you guys, and and just to be able to be open about issues and kind of in many ways bring them out all on the table.
Have a conversation.
Yeah. So it's so crucial for that to happen. This is a great forum for it. So
well,
thank you for your ministry. It's phenomenal.
Thank you. And the thing that's important to me is it doesn't matter what walk in life you have. In fact, it's just that you have had all this school and you have degrees and all the accolades that you have, that you're humble and you're still letting God heal you, and you're being used so that people are drawn to you and your family because of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Well, again, main thing is they get drawn to him. That's the big deal.
Okay, thank you. You know what? Very true. Very true.
Thank you guys for joining us today on this episode of Joy in My House. I want you to catch us next week.
Yeah.
Next week we have an amazing 2-hour special. We're going to go live at noon and we'll go till 2. We have several guests coming on. Lolita Robinson will be coming on, and we'll be talking about her book, Shaped by the Master's Hands. She'll be singing live off her new CD, Changes. We have Paul Obo. He's going to have a great message for you. He's a minister, sits on the board of directors of the show as well. Great guest by the name of Brett Lewis. He was on KFWB. He was a KFWB sports newscaster who also is a Celebrate Recovery leader. He's going to come on. We have Dr. Bill Deitman out of Saddleback Church. He's going to be talking about his book that's out, Fire Your Excuses, and the founder and owner and CEO of Not of This World, NOTW, Aurelio, will be on the show as well. So I want you to catch us next week for our 2-hour special.
It is
going
to
be
year
all
anniversary.
Sponsored by Grub and Hut.
Yeah.
It's an all-purpose barbecue sauce by Lee out of our church in Long Beach, Pastor Mike Hinojosa.
Christian Life.
It's going to be an amazing show. You're not going to want to miss it. It's next week, September 22nd. I get lost as well, but I'm excited. So join us next week live for our 2-hour special.
Yay.
Thank you, Doctor, for coming on the show. This is Joy in My House. I hope you guys have a blessed day.
Love you. Okay.